Much. Good afternoon and welcome, sir. My name is Priscilla Winkbo, and I'm an independent broadcaster here in London. And sir, you spoke about your point number 5, which is to generate electricity and power in Nigeria. And you spoke about transmission, distribution, and generation. But I think it's fair to say that our problems with power goes beyond those 3 areas. And the main problem that I see here is this. We have a population, or part of the economy, shall we say, those who supply spare parts, the engineers, those who work within that sector, whether it's those that are selling generators, and we know that that issue is perhaps the biggest issue when it comes to our power generation. So my question here is this. How do you plan, number 1, and I'm going to take a risk here, to deal with the big boys, and how do you also plan to address that economy that will then no longer exist because you have generated power? Because I'm sure that they too will rise up against it. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. We did online have lots of questions about refining also. And so this is a key issue that people are asking question about. So the gentleman there, a bit further along. Yes, there, you, just there, yeah. Please go ahead, introduce yourself.
Thank you very much.
One question.
Good to see you, Peter. Paul Arkwright, I was the British High Commissioner to Nigeria from 2015 to 2018. And it's good to see you in London, sir. Thank you very much for your talk. I've now moved into private business. I'm a consultant, and I'm advising companies and funds, investors, to look at Africa, to look at Nigeria, to consider investing there. And everyone agrees, I think, that FDI, foreign direct investment, is critical to the future of Nigeria. But at the moment, they're very cautious, and that's putting it diplomatically. When you become president, sir, could you tell me the sort of 3 things you would do in the first, let's say, 100 days, which would send the right signal to foreign investors to look again at Nigeria, not just look again at Nigeria, but to invest in Nigeria? Because as you know, I'm one of Nigeria's strongest supporters, and I think this is a country which is worth investing in. Thank you.
Okay. And I will come back to this side. The gentleman just there. You, sir? Just there. No. Behind, sorry. You're the lucky one. One question, short, please. Give your name.
Good evening. It's William Owomayi, the UK's young ambassador to the Commonwealth and a member of Chatham House. You've caught Nigeria by storm in recent months with your campaign and your vision to unify Nigeria, mobilizing young people all across the country. You mentioned debt a few times in your speech. Currently, the government is repaying debt to the central bank at an interest rate of 19.5%, which is extremely high. How do you plan to support the next generation?
The government is paying?
Repaying the central bank debt by 19.5% interest rate. How do you plan to support the next generation by dealing with the debt repayment crisis? And also, how do you plan to deal with tackling financial transparency in Nigeria? The central bank hasn't released its balance sheet in about 3 years.
Thank you. There you go, Peter. 3 questions.
Let me start with my sister there. He talked about the big, what you're saying is about the big boys who are selling generators. Let me assure you what we've been campaigning on. Our campaign, you have heard them say we don't have structures. That is the structure we're trying to destroy. Structure of criminality. That is what I mentioned. That Nigeria is being held captive. That structure is structure that has impoverished Nigeria. We will dismantle it. It will not be there. I assure you of that. We're going to turn around the power sector. Nigeria generates about, today, 56,000 megawatts of electricity for 200 million people. And South Africa, the second biggest in terms of economy in the continent,
5 to 6,000.
5 to 6,000, that's been 5 to 6,000, sorry. And South Africa, the second biggest economy, 60 million people, generates about 40 to 50,000. And South Africa in the past 3 months have declared emergency in power and said anybody can generate up to 100 megawatts without license. So somebody who is 60 million, generating about over 40,000, declared emergency. What do you think somebody with 2 million people generating 5 to 6,000 will do? War. I'm going to declare war on power, and I'll solve it. Anybody who stands on the way, so be it. Bringing back foreign investor is very simple, Paul. Foreign investor is like bee and honey. All you need is to create honey. The way bee will find the place is very simple. Foreign capital is scared of corruption. Is scared of bad policies. Is scared of where there's no rule of law. You need to put a regulatory environment that makes it conducive. You need to secure it. That is at the heart of what Dati and I are offering. We will build that intangible assets of securing the country, making sure that we govern to rule of law. We will fight corruption. Dati have a record that is the only National Assembly member who refused to buy property of government when it was offered to all National Assembly members. You can go and look at his record. If you have seen anywhere he has compromised or put himself in a transactional position. And I'll stop running. I know how I approached him. And I told him, I and you owe it to save our people. That's why we came together. And we came back and said, we'll work as a team. We'll solve this problem. Go and check my record. I've governed the state for 8 years. And I've challenged everybody. Paul, you were there. I've been the only governor till today. The day I left office, I was not owing salary, pension, gratuity, or any contract or any supplier. And I left in 3 banks in Nigeria, which I say every day. Access Bank of Nigeria, Fidelity Bank of Nigeria, and Diamond Bank. I left over $150 million. Dollars, I didn't say naira. And I have over 30 billion naira. And Anambra State, you can go and verify anywhere. I've never had a bottle. Anambra State have never bought me. There's no land allocated directly or indirectly by me, and I signed over several thousands of CFO. Anambra has never bought me a bottle of water since I left office. So you can go. We will fight and stop corruption. The first thing about stopping corruption is yourself. If you're not involved, your wife is not involved, your family is not involved, those around you are not involved, you reduce it by over 50%. And that's what I'm going to do. And I'm sure, Paul, you know that. We are committed. We can't disappoint these youths. We must build a new Nigeria. And we'll deal with that. Investors will come back. Those who left, even the young people who are today living, they'll come back. We want to bring them back. Nigerians are prepared to come back if they can find that they have a country to go back to. This green passport, people must be proud to use it. On issue of capital, where do you find money? My young brother, there's nothing wrong in borrowing. Borrowing is a legitimate way of every government I've studied in the world borrow. Even Britain, as we speak, owns over 70% of their GDP. Every government I know lives on borrowing. Even Norway with 1.4 trillion sovereign wealth is owing. The economies of the world, the third biggest nation in the world is America. The debt of America today is almost 100% of their GDP. The second, China, is almost owing over 60% of their GDP. Japan owes over 230% of their GDP. But let me tell you the difference. Japan is owing over 230% of their GDP. They invested the money to save their economy. And in that, even with that, Japan is still the highest holder of US treasuries. So there's something they can fall back on. What has happened? So borrowing is not wrong. If I have time, I compare two countries that borrowed with Nigeria and how well they've done. But what has happened is that when you borrow for consumption, you have a crisis. Nigeria borrowed for consumption. Nigeria in 2015 had a GDP per capita of $2,550. And we're owing about 15 trillion naira. Today, with central bank ways and means, we're owing over 75. So we have grown that debt by about 400%. But our per capita is 2,000. That means that the money we borrowed was thrown away. So that is what I'm going to reverse. We will restructure the debt as it is today. We will restructure it and put it a long time to be able to pay it. I'm a finance person, that is one. And then we will not say, like I said here, no more borrowing for consumption. We will still borrow, people will see it, it will be transparent, it will be for investment. And that's what we intend to do. Countries have been in this situation before. We're not in a situation where other countries haven't passed before. It's a question of showing leadership, and we will be able to solve it. Thank you.